Many people over 60 wake up in the morning and assume their blood sugar has been stable all night. But what if the opposite is happening? What if certain foods you eat in the evening are quietly causing blood sugar swings while you're asleep? Researchers have spent years studying overnight glucose patterns, and what they found may surprise you. In fact, some bedtime snacks may be far better than others when it comes to supporting steady blood sugar levels through the night. And one of the best options isn't expensive, complicated, or hard to find. Today, we'll look at 5 research-backed bedtime snacks that may help reduce overnight blood sugar spikes and support healthier morning glucose levels. Let's begin. While you're sleeping, your body is far from inactive. Your liver continues releasing glucose into the bloodstream to provide energy for essential functions. For some older adults, especially those with insulin resistance or type 2 diabetes, this process can lead to higher blood sugar levels overnight and even elevated readings in the morning. Many people focus only on what they eat during the day, but researchers have found that the hours before bedtime may also play an important role. The goal isn't simply eating before bed. The goal is choosing foods that digest slowly, provide protein, and avoid sudden glucose surges. That's where these 5 bedtime snack options come in.
Let's start with a simple favorite. An apple provides fiber and natural sweetness, but eaten alone, it may raise blood sugar more quickly. Adding a tablespoon of natural peanut butter changes the equation. The healthy fats and protein help slow digestion and reduce the speed at which glucose enters the bloodstream. This combination creates a more balanced snack that may help support steadier blood sugar levels throughout the night. Just make sure the peanut butter contains little or no added sugar.
Cottage cheese may not be the trendiest food in the grocery store, but it remains one of the most effective bedtime snacks. It's rich in casein protein, a slow-digesting protein that provides a steady release of amino acids for several hours. Because it contains relatively few carbohydrates, it has minimal impact on blood sugar levels. Many nutrition professionals recommend cottage cheese as a nighttime option for people trying to avoid large glucose fluctuations. A small serving is often all that's needed. Almonds may be small, but they pack an impressive nutritional punch. They contain protein, fiber, magnesium, and heart-healthy fats. Studies have consistently shown that nuts can support better blood sugar management when consumed as part of a healthy diet. Unlike processed snacks, almonds are digested slowly. That means they are less likely to trigger rapid increases in blood glucose. A small handful before bed can be enough to satisfy hunger while providing nutrients that support metabolic health. Greek yogurt stands out because of its high protein content. Compared to regular yogurt, it typically contains more protein and less sugar. Protein helps slow digestion and may contribute to more stable glucose levels overnight. If you choose Greek yogurt, look for plain, unsweetened varieties. Many flavored yogurts contain surprising amounts of added sugar that can work against your goals. For extra flavor, consider adding a few berries or a sprinkle of cinnamon. If there's one snack that consistently stands out in research, it's the humble egg. A hard-boiled egg provides high-quality protein with virtually no carbohydrates. That means it has very little impact on blood sugar levels. In one clinical study, participants who consumed an egg-based bedtime snack showed more favorable overnight glucose responses compared to those who consumed a higher carbohydrate snack. It's simple, it's affordable, and for many older adults, it's one of the easiest ways to get satisfying protein before bed. Sometimes the most effective solutions are also the simplest. Now that we've talked about the 5 bedtime snacks that may help support steadier blood sugar levels overnight, there's another side of the story we can't ignore. Because sometimes the biggest problem isn't what you're missing, it's what you're still eating. And for many adults over 60, these foods don't seem unhealthy at all. In fact, some of them may have been part of your evening routine for decades. Maybe they're foods you grew up with, foods that bring comfort, foods that remind you of family gatherings, holidays, or quiet evenings at home. The problem is that your body at 65, 75, or 85 doesn't always respond to food the same way it did at 25. As we age, our muscles often become less efficient at using glucose, insulin sensitivity may decline, and the body's ability to recover from large blood sugar swings can become slower. That's why a bedtime snack that seemed harmless years ago may affect you very differently today. And unfortunately, some of the most common nighttime foods can quietly work against your efforts to maintain stable blood sugar while you sleep. Let's take a closer look. Let's start with one of America's favorite comfort foods, cookies. For many people, a couple of cookies after dinner doesn't even feel like a snack. It feels normal. You pour a cup of coffee, you sit down to watch television, you enjoy a few cookies, and before you know it, the evening is over. But here's what often happens inside the body. Most cookies are made primarily from refined flour and added sugar. Once digested, those ingredients are rapidly broken down into glucose. Because cookies contain very little fiber, there isn't much to slow the process down. Think of it like pouring gasoline onto a fire. The energy arrives quickly, but it doesn't last long. And for older adults, that rapid rise in blood sugar can place additional demands on the body's glucose control systems. What's even more concerning is that cookies rarely satisfy hunger for very long. Have you ever noticed that it's easy to stop after one apple, but much harder to stop after one cookie? That's because highly processed foods are often designed to be extremely easy to eat, and those extra cookies can add up faster than most people realize.
Now let's talk about cakes, muffins, donuts, and pastries, and other baked treats. These foods often seem small. A slice of cake doesn't look like much. A muffin seems innocent. A donut can disappear in just a few bites. But what matters is what those foods are made of. Most baked desserts contain two ingredients that can quickly raise blood sugar: refined flour and added sugar. Together, they create what researchers often describe as a high glycemic combination. That means glucose can enter the bloodstream relatively quickly after eating. For some older adults, this may contribute to larger overnight glucose fluctuations. And here's something many people don't realize. A large bakery muffin can sometimes contain as much sugar as several cookies combined. That's why these foods can be especially challenging before bedtime. When you're active during the day, your muscles can help use some of that incoming glucose. But when you're heading to bed, your body doesn't have that same opportunity.
If there is one bedtime snack that many Americans love, it's ice cream. It's comforting, it's familiar, and after a long day, it can feel like a reward. But ice cream presents a unique challenge. Most commercial ice creams contain significant amounts of added sugar, and many contain more sugar than people realize. The sweetness is often masked by the creamy texture, so it doesn't feel as sugary as candy or soda. But your body still has to process all that sugar. Many older adults also underestimate portion sizes. What starts as a small scoop can easily become a large bowl, and because ice cream is often eaten directly from the container, portions can grow without much thought. That doesn't mean you can never enjoy ice cream, but if your goal is steadier overnight blood sugar, it may not be the best choice right before bed. This next food surprises almost everyone: white bread. After all, it isn't sweet, it doesn't taste like dessert, so how could it affect blood sugar? The answer lies in how white bread is made. During processing, much of the grain's natural fiber is removed. What's left is a refined carbohydrate that can be broken down relatively quickly by the body. In many ways, white bread behaves more like sugar than people expect. That's why researchers often classify white bread as a high glycemic food. For someone over 60, a late-night snack of white toast may lead to a much larger glucose response than a similar serving of whole grain bread. And because bread has been a staple food for generations, many people never think of it as something that could affect blood sugar significantly. Many people grew up believing cereal was one of the healthiest foods in the kitchen. And some cereals certainly are, but many popular brands contain large amounts of added sugar. In fact, some cereals contain nearly as much sugar as a dessert. The challenge is that cereal often creates a false sense of security. The box may feature words like whole grain, heart healthy, fortified with vitamins. And while those claims may be true, they don't automatically mean the cereal is low in sugar. For older adults trying to support stable overnight blood sugar, sugary cereal before bed may not be much different than eating a bowl of dessert.
And finally, let's talk about one of the most misunderstood foods of all: fruit juice. Many people assume that because fruit is healthy, fruit juice must be healthy too, but they're not exactly the same thing.
Whole fruit comes packaged with fiber. That fiber helps slow the absorption of sugar into the bloodstream. When fruit is turned into juice, much of that fiber is removed. What remains is a concentrated source of sugar that can enter the bloodstream much more quickly. Think about an orange. Most people would feel satisfied after eating one, maybe two, but a single glass of orange juice may contain the sugar from several oranges, and because it's liquid, it's consumed much faster. That's one reason many health experts encourage choosing whole fruit whenever possible, especially in the evening hours.
Here's what I hope you remember from all of this. The goal isn't to fear food. The goal isn't to eliminate every treat you enjoy. Life is meant to be enjoyed, and food is one of life's great pleasures. The real goal is understanding which foods are helping your body and which foods may be making its job harder. Because after age 60, your body is working hard every single night. Your heart is beating, your lungs are breathing, your brain is repairing and organizing memories, and your body is constantly trying to keep blood sugar within a healthy range. The foods you eat before bed become part of that process. Some foods support it, others make it more difficult. And often the difference between waking up feeling refreshed and waking up feeling sluggish may begin with a decision made just a few hours earlier. The encouraging news? You don't have to change everything. You don't have to be perfect. You simply need to make better choices more often, because healthy aging is rarely about dramatic changes. It's usually about small decisions repeated consistently over time, and tonight's snack may be one of those decisions. After hearing all of this, you might be thinking, so does that mean I can never enjoy cookies, cake, or ice cream again? Not at all. That's not what the research is telling us, and it's certainly not the message we want you to take away from today's video. The goal isn't to create fear around food. The goal is to understand how different foods affect your body, especially as you get older. Because one of the biggest changes that happens after age 60 is that the body often becomes less efficient at managing blood sugar than it was decades ago. Many people discover that foods they could eat without any problems in their 30s or 40s may affect them very differently in their 60s, 70s, or beyond. And that's perfectly normal. It's simply part of the aging process. The encouraging news is that you don't need to completely overhaul your life to make a difference. You don't need an expensive meal plan, you don't need special products advertised on television, and you don't need to spend hours reading nutrition labels every day. In many cases, the biggest improvements come from the smallest changes. Think about it this way. Imagine two different evenings. In the first, someone finishes dinner and later reaches for a bowl of ice cream or a few cookies before bed. In the second, that same person chooses a hard-boiled egg, a small serving of Greek yogurt, or a handful of almonds. Neither choice feels dramatic. Neither choice requires a major sacrifice. But over time, those decisions may create very different patterns inside the body. Night after night, week after week, month after month, and that's something many people overlook. Good health rarely changes because of one meal. It changes because of patterns. Researchers often focus on long-term habits because the body responds to what we do consistently, not occasionally. A single slice of cake is unlikely to determine your future health, but repeated habits, practiced hundreds of times each year, can have a much greater impact. That's why today's discussion isn't really about eggs, almonds, yogurt, or cookies. It's about creating an environment that helps your body work more efficiently while you sleep. Because while you're resting, your body is still hard at work. Your heart is working, your brain is working, your liver is working, and your body is continuously trying to keep blood sugar within a healthy range. The choices you make before bed can either support that process or make it more difficult. And perhaps the most important message from the research is this: there is no magic food. There's no miracle bedtime snack. No single food can guarantee perfect blood sugar levels overnight. But consistently choosing foods that are higher in protein, higher in fiber, and lower in added sugars appears to be a smarter strategy than relying on highly processed snacks loaded with refined carbohydrates. In other words, success doesn't come from finding a perfect food. It comes from making slightly better choices more often.
And that's good news, because slightly better choices are something almost everyone can do. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to change everything overnight. You simply have to take one small step in a healthier direction. And sometimes that step begins with what you choose to eat before going to sleep. Before we finish, there's one important thing you deserve to know, because this may be the most valuable part of today's video. When people hear about bedtime snacks and blood sugar, many assume there's a simple rule. If I eat before bed, my blood sugar will automatically be better by morning. But that's not actually what the research shows. In fact, when scientists reviewed multiple studies involving people with type 2 diabetes and prediabetes, they discovered something surprising. Simply eating a bedtime snack did not consistently improve overnight blood sugar or fasting glucose levels the next morning. Think about that for a moment. The benefit didn't come from eating more food. The benefit came from eating the right kind of food. That's a very important difference. Many older adults grew up hearing advice like, never go to bed hungry, or have a little snack before bedtime. But researchers found that the quality of that snack matters far more than the fact that you're having one at all. For example, several studies found that higher carbohydrate bedtime snacks often caused blood sugar to remain elevated during the night. On the other hand, lower carbohydrate, protein-rich options tended to produce more favorable overnight glucose patterns. In simple terms, your body doesn't just care that you ate, it cares what you ate. Imagine two people eating the exact same number of calories before bed. One person chooses cookies and a glass of juice, the other chooses a hard-boiled egg or a handful of almonds. The calories may be similar,
But the effect on blood sugar can be very different. One option delivers a rapid stream of sugar into the bloodstream. The other releases energy much more gradually. That's why researchers are increasingly focusing on food composition rather than simply recommending a bedtime snack for everyone. And there's another point that many people over 60 find reassuring. You do not need expensive supplements. You do not need special diabetic snack bars. You do not need complicated meal plans. The foods that appear most promising in the research are often ordinary foods that have been sitting in American kitchens for generations. Eggs, Greek yogurt, almonds, cottage cheese, simple foods rich in protein and nutrients. Now, does this mean these foods will work exactly the same way for everyone? No, and that's another lesson from the research. Every person's metabolism is different, medication use is different, activity levels are different, and blood sugar responses can vary from person to person. That's why many healthcare professionals encourage people to pay attention to patterns rather than looking for a miracle food. Ask yourself, how do I feel when I wake up? What happens to my morning glucose readings? Do certain evening foods seem to help more than others? Sometimes small observations made over several weeks can be more valuable than any single day of testing. And perhaps the biggest takeaway from all of today's research is this: stable overnight blood sugar is usually not the result of one magical snack. It's the result of consistent habits. Choosing foods that are lower in added sugars, getting enough protein, including fiber-rich foods throughout the day, staying physically active, and making small decisions that support your body's natural ability to regulate glucose. Because when it comes to healthy aging, the goal isn't perfection. The goal is giving your body the best possible support, one choice at a time. The good news is that maintaining healthier overnight blood sugar levels doesn't necessarily require expensive supplements or complicated diets. Often, small choices made in the evening can have a meaningful impact. A hard-boiled egg, a handful of almonds, some plain Greek yogurt, simple foods that work with your body instead of against it. And if you found one of these snack ideas especially interesting, let us know which one you'd be most likely to try. Many of the best discussions happen in the comments, where viewers share their own experiences and tips. If you enjoy learning about healthy aging, nutrition, and practical ways to stay active and independent after 60, there's always more to explore here. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.